to the wounded, the people who suffered the magnitude 6 earthquake in the Elazığ province of Turkey. My condolences to the province and the whole region. The earthquake took place 7 kilometers below the surface. So far, 31 of our citizens have lost their lives. 1,600 people have been wounded or injured. Some people have been pulled from under the rubble. 45 of our citizens have been saved from the rubble. I wish God's grace on the souls of my fellow countrymen who lost their lives, and I wish a very speedy recovery to the injured. Our state, since the earthquake took place, with all the institutions and facilities, ran to the aid of our citizens. Ministries of Internal Affairs, Urbanization, Environment, or Health have immediately gone to the region to closely monitor the efforts. Every kind of staff, equipment, vehicles, and teams, emergency response teams, have been sent to the city. Search and rescue efforts or the treatment of the injured or caring for our citizens who lost their homes have been very rapidly taken care of. Yesterday, I went to Elazığ and Malatya provinces personally in order to see the efforts. I visited some wounded people and I tried to share the suffering of my fellow countrymen. The Deputy President, the Minister of Family and Social Affairs were with me in the field. Our state organizations like AFAD or the Red Crescent did their best in order to help the victims. Some people have lost their homes under these harsh winter conditions, and in order to mitigate their suffering, we are doing everything that is possible. Turkey is treating the wounds of this incident in great unity and brotherhood. All members of our nation are displaying a great level of solidarity with their brothers and sisters who were victims of the earthquake, and this requires praise. In Elazığ and in Malatya, I was able to witness this personally myself. Similarly, from some friendly countries around the world, we have received messages of support and solidarity. Once again, starting with Elazığ and Malatya cities, I would like to wish my condolences and my best wishes to our nation and the people who suffered the earthquake. I would like to thank the members of organizations such as AFAD, the Red Crescent, Turkish Armed Forces, Turkish Gendarmerie, and other public staff who have run to the aid of our nation. I'd like to thank them on behalf of myself and my nation. May God protect us from every kind of natural disaster. Members of the press, on invitation of our counterparts from 26 to 28 of January, we will be visiting Algeria, Gambia, and Senegal in this order. During my trip, I would be accompanied by some members of the parliament, some ministers, and representatives of the private industry from various businesses. The first stop on our tour of Africa is going to be Algeria. We have deep-rooted links with Algeria going back 5 centuries. During my visit in the year 2006, we signed a friendship and cooperation agreement, and our relations are gaining speed and improving every day. Last year, Algeria went through a very difficult process in a very successful way. The President, Abdülmecit Tebboune, took office and a new government was formed, which marked the ending of such turbulent times. The President Tebboune took office, and after that, this is the first presidential level visit to Algeria, which makes our visit even more significant. With Mr. Tebboune, we were together at the Berlin summit, and we had some bilateral talks with him. We will have talks with the President and some other state authorities in which we will have a chance to discuss our bilateral relations in great detail. We are one of the most prominent, one of the leading foreign investors in Algeria with an investment of 3.5 billion. So within our visit, we will have a business forum as well. We will also have a chance to discuss some of the recent developments in our region, including Libya. After Algeria, on the 27th of January, Monday, we will proceed to another friendly country, Gambia. This is going to be the first official visit from our country to Gambia. For that reason, I find this visit very important. There were elections in December 2016 in Gambia, and the people of Gambia chose democracy and have entered a new process. The elections ended in a victory of elections, which has also set a good model for other African countries. Gambia, for us in Africa, is the first school which has closed down the FETÖ school. For that reason, it enjoys a unique position in our perspective. We would like to improve our relations with Gambia in every area, including trade and tourism. After Gambia, in the evening of the same day, we will proceed to Senegal. Members of the press, Senegal is an important sign of stability in its region, and we aim to strengthen our relations with Senegal. With the President Macky Sall, we enjoy a very close friendship. We have had face-to-face and phone dialogues in the past. Our companies have taken up a lot of large-scale projects in this country, including, for instance, the airport project. The relations between our country are going through its golden times, and hopefully during this visit we will have a chance to discuss the investments and some other items on our agendas. Members of the press, we have deep relations with the continent of Africa. We have social and historic relations going back to the 10th century. Africa is the land of our friends and brothers. This is the way we see it, and we want to intensify our relations with the countries of Africa. In 2008 and 2014, we had Turkey-Africa partnership summits, and with such summits we added an institutional aspect to our relations with the continent. As a result of our efforts in the past 17 years, we have increased the trade volume between African countries and Turkey. We increased this to $26 billion, which means an increase of over 300%. I have visited, as the Prime Minister and as the President, 27 African countries. And with Gambia, which I will be visiting for the first time, the number will go up to 28. Since 2003, we have an Africa opening initiative in a very multidimensional and multifaceted way. The Turkey-Africa Partnership Summits, the third one of these summits, is going to be held this April and will be hosted by our country. We continue our contacts with the African Union in order to set a date for this summit. In the second week of February, probably a final decision will be made about the date. Our TİKA, Mari Foundation, Yunus Emre Institute, Turkish Red Crescent, And Turkish Airlines are some of the Turkish organizations that make us proud. And with such organizations, we continue lending support to the development of Africa. Business people are contributing to the development of Africa with the projects that they run there, and they are playing a significant role in fulfilling the infrastructure needs of the continent. Our relations are based on mutual interests and on a win-win principle. And with such principles, our relations are becoming even stronger. As I always say, the place that you don't visit is not yours. In order to strengthen our country, our trade, and grow our economy, we have to visit different countries, whether they are close or far away, and we strengthen our relations with all countries. Hopefully, with this perspective, we would like to renew our contact with different corners of our geography, the geography of our hearts. I hope this visit is going to be auspicious, and once again, I greet you with my best regards. If you have any questions, you may ask them now. You have visited the cities which were hit by the earthquake. You said Turkey would be working for the buildings that were taken down, and there are some aftershocks, and some people have had to abandon their homes. Is there going to be an effort for the partially destroyed, partially damaged buildings? What would be the roadmap? The Ministry of Urbanization is working on an inventory of buildings who have had damages. I'm talking for the city of Malatya. There will be an effort to know how many buildings have been damaged. In Elazığ, the problems are mainly in some rural areas and some villages. There will be an assessment effort in order to know the number of buildings. And as soon as possible, we will start the construction of new homes. If there are any buildings that need to be taken down, we must demolish them first, because aftershocks continue. And we experienced this in Malatya yesterday. There was a magnitude 5.1 aftershock, which I personally experienced. Of course, we don't have the chance to delay. We cannot delay anything. 3 of our ministers are there at the moment. All of our deputies, members of the parliament are there. We have left them there as well. The ministers are there with their teams, and they're working on damage assessment. On social media, there have been certain posts shared, and the public prosecutor of Ankara has declared that it has started an investigation for such disinformation. The Radio and Television Council has also started an investigation. What are your thoughts on those? First and foremost, our nation has displayed great solidarity, but on the other hand, there are people who try to use this or abuse this for their political gains. Or as people are fighting for their lives, some people have other interests. With such interests, they are trying to find opportunities for themselves. So there is a campaign of slander, especially on the social media. There are some messages on social media which are aiming to provoke, and they're very unethical, and they're quite ugly. For instance, for 20 years, some claim, that this government has done nothing towards earthquake preparation. Do you have a chance to prevent an earthquake? This is not possible. It does not exist. Nowhere in the world, no country has the means to prevent an earthquake from happening. But after the earthquake, when it comes to what we do after an earthquake takes place, during our governments, when I was the prime minister and afterwards, there have been some earthquakes. One of them was the earthquake in Bingöl. At the Bingöl earthquake, we went to the earthquake zone right away. We almost rebuilt Bingöl entirely. And then an earthquake happened in the city of Van. After the Erzincan city earthquake, it was the second largest scale earthquake. Maybe it was the top. And we have rebuilt Van entirely. From the center, city center of Van to districts like Erciş, we have rebuilt all of those places. We have included some social facilities in the rebuilding, and we have given a new city of Van to the people of Van. We have rebuilt the city. We also had an earthquake in Soma as well. Myself and my ministers went to Soma right away, and we took similar steps. We had an earthquake in Sakarya as well. Unfortunately, the previous governments did not handle Sakarya fully. We did similar efforts there, and similarly, we rebuilt Sakarya. So now we are facing this most recent earthquake. I'm very happy that our organizations, when they run into such incidents, they have great capabilities now. They have developed skills. The Turkish Red Crescent is already very equipped, especially when it comes to aid, humanitarian aid or food aid. It's very successful. AFAD is also similar, the Disaster and Emergency Management Presidency. We have seen that it is doing great when it comes to search and rescue. The Turkish Gendarmerie is also doing great work. The Turkish Armed Forces has proven very successful. These make us happy, because in such a troublesome time, these organizations responding very quickly, and their skills at emergency response, and the positive outcomes that they achieve. For instance, the citizens who have been saved, mothers, children, 45 have been rescued so far from under the rubble when all hope was lost. This, of course, makes you happy. On the other side, people sometimes lose their hopes, but once again they gain the hope. And as the administrators, it makes us quite happy. So from this perspective, even though we have lost 31 lives during the earthquake, and may God's grace be on their souls, and our condolences to their friends and family, and our condolences to the nation. But on the other hand, we have 1,600 injured people who have been saved, and 1,500 of them have been discharged from hospitals already, and 104 are still hospitals under ongoing treatment. I had a chance to visit them at the hospital, and during the hospital visit, I saw how happy they were for the treatment and interest that they have received. Despite all interventions for Libya and Idlib, Haftar's attacks in Libya continue. During this visit, are you going to raise the issue of Libya once again? Another ceasefire is going on in Idlib, but still some breaches take place and people continue fleeing away Idlib. What kind of steps will be taken and what is the current situation in those two places? Yesterday and the day before, on Friday, we hosted the Chancellor of Germany, Chancellor Merkel here. We discussed once again the Berlin process with her, and we discussed Libya. Haftar is a coup plotter. So why is a coup plotter is being supported so much? I told this to Chancellor Merkel. I said, you are spoiling him, and she accepts this herself. And this coup plotter that you have been spoiling, unfortunately, is going to cause a division in Libya. And he continuously breaches ceasefires. Haftar did not give support to the Moscow process. Mr. Putin said, I will deal with Haftar and you deal with Sarraj. And Sarraj did not turn down our requests, and he complied with everything we told him, both in Moscow and in Berlin. But Haftar, on the other side, neither in Moscow complied with the process nor in Berlin. He almost ran away from Moscow. In Berlin, he went to hiding in the hotel. So when it comes to identity and personality, we know who he is, and he has betrayed his own superiors in the past. And we still expect compassion from this kind of a person within the frame of a ceasefire, and this is not possible. So the international community must be careful about this. He is with Wagner, and the support that he is receiving together with Wagner and his trust, his reliance on them, is encouraging him to attack with all he has. But of course he is not going to prove successful. There is now a 5+5 process which is about to start by landing troops. 5 names have been given and they are protecting him in great conditions, and we don't expect anything to come out of that. Another question you asked was about Idlib. And in Idlib, unfortunately, the regime still continues its betrayal. It's still bombing the civilian population and killing them. The regime is insensitive, and it's impossible to turn a blind eye to their indifference. We are in constant dialogue with Mr. Putin, and some of our teams have dialogue with their counterparts. We want to save, we want to protect the civilian population. In addition to all of these, we have now entered winter conditions. Especially from our border on the Syrian side, there is a 40-kilometer deep zone in which there are maybe not tent cities, but houses or settlements that are built out of bricks. We have planned for such a construction activity, and the construction started. We will very rapidly build such shelters around 30 square meters, and in these harsh winter conditions we want that our brothers and sisters from Idlib can take shelter, can take refuge in these shelters, and hopefully we can take them under a certain level of protection. Thank you very much.